Welcome to episode 91, or our final episode before the first round of the 2021 NFL Draft. We will get our final opinions out in this episode about the Giants' first round. And don't worry, we won't stop covering the draft after this episode. We are going to have initial reactions to each pick on our social media. So please go follow us on Instagram at The Giant Take and on Twitter at The Giant Take Pod. So we will have initial reactions. We'll be together for the first round of the NFL draft. So that'll be exciting. It's first time seeing each other in person for something podcast related. We still haven't recorded a podcast together. That'll be fun the first time we do that, but at least we'll be able to get our reactions together, Alex. And then podcast episode after the 3 days that's our plan for the draft. So you'll get it on the first day, you'll get it on the second day, and obviously on the third day, our reactions to each of the Giants picks. And then tomorrow is the big day, our final mock draft. I'm sure we'll have some trades in there as well, and it'll be our final mock draft tomorrow morning before the actual thing happens, our final NFL draft, NFL first round mock draft, excuse me. I have my little Giants helmet, I guess, on top of my microphone for everyone listening, because if you're watching, I'm sure you already saw it. I'm hoping it's like a little good luck charm, although I should have had it on here for a few months at that point. But, our last episode before the first round, I think it'll give us a little spark. Alex, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm excited. We're only, let's see here. I'm going to calculate the hours. We're like 36 hours out from the draft, from the end of the draft, I guess, tomorrow night. So 33 hours away from when we're recording this. It's exciting. Kind of the mock drafts are kind of getting old now. We're going to have our final one. This is going to be our prediction here. And then obviously at the end of this episode, we'll have our final prediction for who we think the Giants will be taking at 11. Hopefully Josh and I pick different players and we'll see who's right, tomorrow night. But we don't have really much to talk about. The rumors, they're kind of dry, to be honest. Obviously there's a lot of rumors towards the top of the draft whether you're looking at the 49ers. Obviously there's a whole bunch of things going on with them in terms of Mac Jones, them not liking Justin Fields, Trey Lance now in the mix there. And obviously the Falcons, there's stuff around there. But it's really hard to create rumors for the Giants because you really don't know who's going to be there, right? You have 10 other teams before you picking. You never know what's going to happen. Latest rumor that just came out a few minutes ago is that the Eagles are possibly looking to trade up and jump the Giants for a wide receiver, whether that be Waddle or Smith, whatever that means. But there's going to be a lot of smoke, but hopefully, we can just get through it, and then we'll know tomorrow, right? So, and then it's all over, and we don't have to gossip anymore about what's going to happen. But yeah, we only have a couple things here before, we get into our kind of final thoughts for the draft. Josh, if it's okay with you, I'm just going to get right into it. So Kyle Pitts, he came out, obviously he's, presumed to be a top 5 pick in this year's draft, definitely top 10, I would say. No way he makes it to the Giants. But interesting comment from him. He believes that the first 4 picks in this draft will all be quarterbacks. So this is interesting from him, right? Because he's obviously been talking to all these teams, right? He's, all these teams have been talking to him, interviewing him, trying to figure out if he's a good fit for their team. Obviously, Atlanta is probably the team that's most likely to take him. And the fact that he came out, and obviously Atlanta are the number 4 pick, that he came out and said that the first 4 picks are going to be quarterbacks most likely means that he knows that Atlanta are either interested in a quarterback or are trading out of the pick most likely. So that's definitely something interesting. Obviously, I'm not sure what benefit there would be for him to lie about that or to, throw smoke there. I'm not sure if he's doing it on behalf of Atlanta because pretty much, if Atlanta wants him, they could take him, right? He's not going anywhere earlier than 3 or anywhere earlier than 4. So I'm not really sure what the whole deal is. That's just, a small rumor that we have there. But he did come out and say it, and I guess we'll see what happens there. With Kyle Pitts, I mean, we could pray that he falls somehow to 11, but I really doubt it. And he's going to be a monster in the NFL, by the way. That guy, I was watching some more tape on him yesterday. My God, he's generational talent. When people say, I often think people overuse the word generational talent, right? It's just it's overused, right? I think there's probably 2, maybe 3 players in this class that are generational talents. And I feel like even that's a little bit excessive. I mean, you're looking at Trevor Lawrence, I think Kyle Pitts, and I think Penei Sewell who is borderline. I think Sewell is a little bit overrated, actually, but not super overrated. But yeah, Kyle Pitts is a beast. That's just all I want to talk about with him.
Kyle Pitts, I mean, speaking of that pick at 4, Alex, we have the Lions. ESPN came out a bit ago when we were recording this, and apparently kind of wanted, or not kind of, they wanted to get that number 4 pick to get Ja'Marr Chase, but the Falcons' price was too high for him. Interesting that the Lions thought Chase, would be gone by maybe that 5th, 6th spot, whatever it may be. I mean, I guess I understand that. And then you have the news like Kyle Pitts that you just mentioned. Alex, you mentioned the draft a little bit earlier. I have the counter 13 hours, 9 minutes, 8 minutes, and 58 seconds away is actually now it just changed. So there you go with that, with the first round of the NFL draft. Alex was calculating in his head. He was about to knock off my source for that. I wasn't calculating it. I found a draft counter online, pretty simple stuff. So Alex, as long as you're okay with what the source says, we can move on to the next thing, and that's Peter King came out with who each person likes in the Giants staff, and that's going to be Joe Judge. Apparently, he's very high on Devontae Smith. We have the Giants organization, and Alex basically said when we talked about it, said whatever that means. The Giants organization, or whatever that means, picking J.C. Horn, and then Dave Gettleman with Micah Parsons. Obviously, the organization being, I'm sure, the owners and all the part of the scouts and staff and stuff like that. And in a little bit, we will give our first round predictions of who the Giants are going to pick. And, one of those players on that list I do have going at 11 to the New York Giants. So I guess that's a little preview to that. If that helps anyone out, I'm sure a lot of people have one of those 3 people getting taken at that 11th pick, as we've seen quite recently, And listen, I mean, like you said, Alex, final days, final hours till the draft, and we just have to wait and see what happens. It's all a waiting game, and it's been a waiting game, but, now we're about to see everything produce and happen. And I think what we might have different opinions on who goes at 11, and that'll be interesting to see, like, how that goes into our mock draft tomorrow, and who goes into that 11 spot tomorrow if we have to fight for that.
Yeah, so, one other thing I wanted to mention also with kind of more recent news from this Wednesday morning is that the Patriots are interested in trading up a lot now that they kind of feel that Justin Fields is going to be dropping. Stephon Gilmore's name has been thrown in there as a possible, trade piece that they're using to jump up, whether that be with, team in the later of the single digits of like Carolina, Detroit, even Denver. So they're definitely trying to jump a little bit higher than the Giants pick, I believe. So that's definitely something to keep in mind. I think they're trying to jump the Broncos is based on kind of what I'm thinking. So, there's been a lot of rumors about the trade down with the Patriots. I think the Patriots will be more enticing I think they'd be more enticed to go further, up the board or further down the board, depending on how you see it. But yeah, that's just another thing I wanted to mention. I mean, do you want to just get into who we have for our first round and who we think is going to be there? I mean, I kind of just want to talk a little bit about the options, right? So if you're looking at them, I think, there's only 3 positions that maybe 4, if you're looking at it that way, that could be taken here. I think wide receiver, linebacker, edge, and then I think possibly corner. I wouldn't be shocked. I'd be a little bit surprised, but I wouldn't be shocked if the Giants, say a Surtain falls to 11. I wouldn't be shocked if they just felt like they had to take him because he's the best player on the board. But for me, Josh, you have something to say there?
No, quick comment. I do, yeah. So quick comment. You said 4 positions. You said wide receiver, edge, linebacker, cornerback. We have a 5th, Alex. Got an offensive lineman in there.
O-line, sorry. For some reason, I mixed linebacker, edge rusher in one position. So linebackers and then offensive line as well. For some reason, I really don't think we're taking O-line first round. I just don't. I think if Rashawn Slater's there, I don't even think we'd take him. Obviously, if he's the only option, then maybe. But for me, I think Joe Judge runs this team now, right? Gettleman's halfway out the door, right? Depending on what happens this season, obviously. I think Joe Judge's call is going to, be the most important here. And I think Alabama, he has connections there. I think in general, Joe Judge likes Devonta Smith. He was wide receiver coach there. I think Devonta Smith's going to be going to the Giants at number 11. Backup, obviously, I think whichever one's there, Smith or Waddle, right? I think Waddle will be gone a little bit earlier. Waddle, I think, is a really good prospect. If Waddle was there, I'd be ecstatic if we took Jalen Waddle. I think if we took Devonta Smith, I'd be satisfied. Micah Parsons obviously is an option, but I'm going to go Devonta Smith, and I really like that pick for the Giants. He came out actually yesterday, 2 days ago, right, about his weight, because that's obviously a big concern, his weight and size. And he said, we're not bodybuilders. We play football. So, fair enough to him there. It's definitely going to be an interesting player in the NFL, right? Because no one of his size and stature has ever succeeded in the NFL, at least or there have been players that have been undersized and underweight who have succeeded in the NFL, but I don't think anyone this dramatically underweight or this drastically small sized. But, if anyone could do it, he's talented. He's, a very good all-around wide receiver, and I would be happy to have him on the New York Giants, but that's going to be my prediction for tomorrow.
I'm going to stall for a little bit. I have to. I'm going to stall before I give my pick. I'm going to go through the other rumors that we've had swirling around last night. Turns out the Miami Dolphins seem to favor Alabama wide receiver Jalen Waddle over Ja'Marr Chase and their first pick in the draft. That was according to PFT. But yet today, we have that the Lions are targeting Chase at 4, and they're trying to trade up to get him. So there's all stuff going on there. Obviously, this is the Dolphins we're talking about, not the Lions, but it's just interesting as each team favors another player.
Well, I would also say I think Ja'Marr Chase is locked in at number 5 to the Bengals. Unless a team jumps the Bengals, it's the dumbest decision. Trust me. There's no way. If I was the general manager, if I was, the coach, I would be taking Penei Sewell. He would be written down before we're even on the clock. Okay, he'd already be getting having meetings with our offensive line coach. But it's the Bengals, right? They're the Bengals. There's a reason they're not a good franchise, and I think this is why Ja'Marr Chase and Joe Burrow will be a fun duo there. But I mean, he won't be able to pass the ball if he's constantly on the ground.
You have the New England Patriots and the Carolina Panthers. They've had trade talks for that number 8 spot, and we'll have to see what happens there. Alex, you mentioned that a little bit earlier. You have Caleb Farley, who Ian Rappaport tweeted out that he could fall out of the first round due to the multiple back surgeries, which Alex mentioned. That's why he kind of came a little bit further down in our most recent mock draft, right? And you have the Washington football team, who could be trading up as well to get a quarterback. We'll have to see what the deal is there. Now, I will go to our final first round predictions for the Giants. It's up to it's my turn, to choose my pick. Wow, I'm even stuttering going up to this point. So, I'm standing up at the podium right now, and I'm going to take linebacker Micah Parsons out of Penn State. It's significantly grown my anticipation for this draft as the more and more options come out, out of every single position. And I get it. It's really tough. It's super tough, on who to pick out at 11. But just, I don't know. As we've gotten closer and closer, Mike Parsons has been going, into the top 10s on multiple draft boards, not just, in the linebacker position, but in overall. I think he's a player that's grown on me from the beginning, and now I'm here kind of picking him out of all these other players. And there is something that we should mention. These are both players that we're picking when Devonta Smith and Micah Parsons, where we are filled at that position, meaning Blake Martinez is already a linebacker. Why? Why are we taking Micah Parsons in the first round? This player, when we have Blake Martinez there, why are we taking a player that's so good at the wide receiver position in Devonta Smith? We just signed Kenny Golladay in free agency. We just got Sterling Shepard. We have Sterling Shepard. I think I just said we just got Kenny Golladay. We have Sterling Shepard. We have Darius Slayton. We just got John Ross, CJ Boyd, whatever it is, right? Obviously, we have depth at certain positions, but it's about growing the talent on our team, and that's what we're trying to do. And that's why Alex thinks we're not drafting an offensive lineman in the first round. As much as I could say offensive line is definitely our biggest need. Obviously the cornerback stuff, you talk about it with Farley. And with, I mean, depending on how you feel that Surtain's going to fall, you could say Surtain goes there. And then you say, but why? We have James, it's the same thing, but we have James Bradbury, we have Adoree Jackson, we just signed Julian Love, Darnay Holmes. It's all about growing the positions. And I feel like although we have strong players at each position that are our biggest draft needs, and people have us taking a wide receiver, cornerback, offensive lineman, or edge in the first round, yes, there are players that are pretty good. I would say Kenny Golladay, Adoree Jackson, James Bradbury, they're pretty good players. Yet we still have them taking those players at those positions at number 11. So it's just something you have to keep in mind. But yeah, I mean that's going to be my pick. I do think Dave Gettleman, as much as it's Joe Judge's team, Alex, it's the GM and they make the selection. I feel like at the end of the day, but it's an organization that has to come to a full agreement. And I think that's the hardest part about predicting this draft is we don't know who's going to be that decision maker in the draft room.
Yeah, so before, we kind of wrap up here, I kind of had a fun little game here that I wanted to do. So a lot of people have been talking about this. I wanted to do kind of like a hot take, the Giant take. I know we did this a while ago, but let's do kind of like our hot takes, our draft surprises here. I'll go first, right? Let's do like two each, I'm going to say, right? So things that maybe aren't going to be expected or, unlikely at least. So for me, I just wanted to say, obviously this has been rumored, right? But, I think a lot of this Mac Jones stuff to the Niners has been a little bit of a bluff. I think Trey Lance is going to be the pick. I'm almost certain about it, actually. Almost certain. He fits their West Coast offense perfectly. He can sit behind Jimmy G, obviously, if he's not traded, for a season. And I think it's a nice fit there. I think he just really fits their scheme really, really well. So I think Trey Lance is the pick there for them. So that's kind of like my hot take for the first one. I know it's not that because obviously he's one of the two options that's rumored, but definitely one of the more unlikely, the less likely of the two, I'd say. So that's kind of like my first hot take for this draft.
First hot take for me, I'm going to go with the quarterbacks. You already mentioned kind of Mac Jones and Trey Lance at number 3. I'm going to go with Justin Fields and Mac Jones. I think my hot take is don't see Justin Fields falling into the teens or 20s. I think I have a very, very strong feeling that Justin Fields, if not, a team trades up to get him in the top 10, I think the Carolina Panthers go a different way and they take Justin Fields at number 8. I know they traded for Sam Darnold. Come on. They traded late round picks for him. Teddy Bridgewater is not a number 1 starter. Sam Darnold, yes, he's better. I would say he's better than Daniel Jones. He was better than Daniel Jones when he was in New York. He just didn't have the talent to show it. And I think that Daniel Jones has to prove it this year. We're not talking about him right now. We're talking about Sam Darnold. Talking about my hot take. First hot take. Look for a team to either trade up into the first round to their early top 10 picks to get Justin Fields, or maybe see the Panthers taking him at number 8. And while Alex is thinking of his other thing, I'll go to my second hot take. No. I'm going to it now. You took too long to unmute, all right? My second – I feel so bad, Alex. I'm sorry. That was really rude. My second hot take – I don't even care it, though. My second hot take is, you know what? I have Devontae Smith, player that could go to the Giants at 11, that Alex has falling to the Giants at 11. I have him falling to probably the end of the teens of the first round. I have him going 15 through 20. Yep. So that'll be my second hot take. We're talking about hot takes, Alec. You said something that not a lot of people project. First one is Justin Fields top 10, and then I think you're going to see the second one. Maybe Devontae Smith could fall into that 15 through 20 range.
So for me, my next hot take here, I'm going to go to the running back position. There's been a lot said about the Steelers, Najee Harris. He's probably the projected first running back off the board. A lot of people have been talking about Javonte Williams out of North Carolina. He's been rising up draft boards. But I think someone here, kind of like last year, Clyde Edwards-Helaire obviously was the first running back to go off the board. Many people thought it would be DeAndre Swift or Jonathan Taylor who would be off the board first last year. And I think a similar thing's going to happen this year. I think Travis Etienne is going to be the first running back off the board. That's my hot take. I'm not sure whether it's going to be to the Steelers. I think the Steelers may actually pass on a running back, but I think the first running back off the board, whether that be the Bills, I'm just kind of looking at the draft board here, even the Ravens, not that they really need a running back, or the Jaguars even to back up Robinson there. I think Travis Etienne, I think he's the most well-rounded running back here, and he's good out of the backfield as well. So I think he's going to be the first running back off the board. So those are going to be that's going to be my 2 hot takes. Those are Josh's 2 hot takes there. Fun little improvised section.
Yeah. Yeah, and Alex, you mentioned last episode how you don't come up with the ideas. Well, look what just happened there, Mr. Hot Take. Yeah, very impressive, Alex. So good for you. You got a section in there. Please go subscribe wherever you're listening. I mean, I don't want to quickly wrap it up, but I think that, Alex, I'll actually go back to your point first, just before we do so. I don't know. I like Najee Harris, and I've always liked Najee Harris. We obviously we've had the PFF guys the last 2 weeks in Austin Gale and Seth Galina coming on the podcast, and I think we only talked about with Austin Gale, but I just mentioned PFF because they have him at number 1 in their running back rankings. Javonte Williams out of North Carolina. It's a reach. I just think Najee Harris is the number 1 back. I don't know. That's just my opinion. Obviously, we'll be talking about the Giants pick in our next episode of the Giant Take podcast coming out Friday at some point, obviously, for the second round. We'll have to get into that and talk about the Giants, and then we'll obviously talk about the players that have fallen, or that we're going to talk about everything. Whatever expects that we're going to talk about, we're going to talk about the Giants pick, players that went in the first round, obviously the surprises. There's always going to be the surprises, the trades in the first round, and then the players that have not gotten picked in the first round, how they're going to range in the second round. Those players that have fallen, that have slipped, who's going to be available at that 42nd spot. Alex, you can go ahead and talk about whatever you want to talk about now before we wrap this episode up.
To be honest, I don't even really have anything to talk about. It's kind of like after a while with the draft, you kind of run out of things to say. After the first round, we may even see if we can do a second round mock draft after the first round's been done. We may see if we can do that if we have time. Obviously, the draft's like right in between there, so there's not a lot of time and a lot to do. But yeah, we may try to do that. And obviously we'll talk about who the Giants could possibly get in the second round. And maybe we'll have a situation like last year where someone who was projected to go mid-first round, late first round, like Xavier McKinney, falls to the early second. So that would definitely be interesting. And I'm sure, obviously, we're going to have someone who falls, right? So every draft, someone falls. It's pretty much a known fact. Day 2 trade, I could see the Giants trading up day 2, maybe just a few spots. If there's one of those edge rushers on the board, let's say they didn't take one in the first round, and they see an Owe, they see a Gregory Rousseau, they see a Jalen Phillips who's somehow still there, and they need to trade up a couple spots, they may give up one of those, a 4th round pick or something to go up. So that's just something you should also look out for, but we'll see. But the first round will set us up nicely, and we'll definitely have a better picture what's going to happen the rest of the draft after the first round. But with all that being said, thank you for listening today to episode number 91 of the Giant Take podcast. And we'll be back after the first round of the NFL mock draft. Josh has one more thing to say before we wrap it up.
Well, I do, because Alex, we have taken a little bit of break because lucky enough we've had guests these past 2 weeks. Let's promote ourselves a little bit. Let's give ourselves where you can find us, where you can check us out. So, Alex, take it away with the Giant Take website. You forgot that we did this section of the podcast at the end.
Shameless plug. I can't believe I forgot here. TheGiantTake.com. We have all sorts of stuff on there. Episodes, blog posts. We'll have the mock draft up tomorrow morning there, so make sure to go check it out. Obviously, we'll also have it on YouTube. You can search up The Giant Take on YouTube, and we'll be right there. We'll have a video up tomorrow morning, probably around like 11 o'clock-ish, 11:30, something like that. So make sure to look out for that to get our final predictions there. And I guess that's pretty much it. Subscribe to the newsletter that's on the homepage, and that'll give you updates on everything going on with the podcast. And that's pretty much it from me. I know Josh has the Twitters and stuff like that. And make sure to definitely follow the Twitters, because we're going to be doing lots of live draft tweeting and stuff, our thoughts, because obviously we're probably not going to be able to, we're not going to be live streaming or whatever. So we'll be live tweeting, as I like to call it.
You know what? We got to finesse ourselves onto someone's live stream, Alex. It's going to happen. We're going to have to jump on. Yeah, we're together, so like it's got to be like we'll see if we can make some stuff happen. Obviously, if we are able to go on to anyone's live stream, we'll plug it on Twitter. So go check us out there. But yeah, obviously you'll get our mock draft out tomorrow. Go follow Alex on Twitter at anorian23, me on Twitter at joshsolo29. Subscribe wherever you're listening. Already said it. 5 stars rating, if not review, that would be great. Follow our other podcast at Talking Blues Pod on Twitter and subscribe there as well. It's a soccer podcast. Chelsea 1-1 UEFA Champions League semifinals 1-1 draw. There we go. Got it down pat, but we're focusing on the Giants draft tomorrow. All the Giants draft, anything from Thursday to Saturday, right? Giants draft. That's all we're doing. That's all we're focusing on right now. I don't care about the Chelsea game on Saturday. Giants content. Giants comes first. I don't know about Alex. Obviously, if you're looking behind him, if you're watching, you see the Chelsea sign is a little bit bigger than the Giants sign by like 3 times much, but whatever. It is what it is. I'll let it slide. Follow us on Instagram at The Giant Take and then Facebook by the same name at The Giant Take, Twitter at The Giant Take Pod. That's going to be all from me. Now, Alex, you did the outro perfectly the first time. Just do it one more time and we can wrap this one up.
That is all for today on episode 91 of the Giant Take Podcast, and we'll see you next time recapping the first round of the NFL Draft.